Welcome to One Bite at a Time, a podcast where I, Chef Wu,
and I, Chef B,
discuss the hospitality and culinary industry from both our professional and personal experiences.
and touch on all the things that make us smile, cry, laugh, shout, and celebrate, all whilst trying to figure out how to set the standard.
One bite at a time.
Ooh.
Okay, so today we have in the showroom with us none other than the FT. And honestly, I feel like he's a really befitting guest for the podcast.
Most
He
definitely.
is a chef from Canada and he's here with us today.
Live and direct.
And he's going to tell us all why Nigerians japa to Canada. I'm joking. No, honestly, I just had to put that in there because why? But no, that's not why we're here. Funmilade Taiwo.
Correct.
You are here because we are so fascinated with the topic of generally just the diaspora and how our food from Africa has traveled around the globe. And I think it's a perfect discussion to have, talking about the Nigerian cuisine, its influences, and how we see our food being translated in different ways across the globe. So tell me about that. Yeah, I know that you have some influences from, for example, Southern America. So tell us who you are first and about yourself as a diasporan chef.
Cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Funmilade Taiwo, as already said by Chefy. I go by FT, F Taiwo, whichever one. I live in Canada. I've lived in Canada since 2006. I don't know the math. But I moved in my family when I was fairly young.
Whoa, that's almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Was that dumb?
Yeah, it's
No,
close to
almost
20
20
18 years.
years.
18 years,
Bloody
actually.
hell.
18 years, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I could have had a child that would be stubborn by now. But yes, the 18 years. It's so funny when I think about like my food journey with Canada and now back in Nigeria. Because when I moved, I was hating eating. And I never was cooking at that point in time as well. So like growing up in Windsor, Ontario, a very tiny town in Canada, we had limited access to Nigerian groceries. There was a Caribbean store which stocked yam, palm oil, and things like that. But you couldn't really get egusi. So my dad had to bring that anytime he came to Canada. But yeah, so my understanding of Nigerian food, cooking and eating, it was obviously very, I don't want to say limited, but it was just shaped by the year that I was in Canada at that point in time. So yeah, here we are 18 years later, doing my best to get back into the core of Nigerian cooking for myself so that I can share it with people here and abroad.
That's amazing. It's
That
so
is
funny.
wonderful.
I related with what you said about growing up in a small town because that was my journey as well. Literally, I lived in the tiniest village in the Midlands in the UK, and we didn't even have a Caribbean store. So what we do is when we went to London for a trip to visit our granddad or something, that's when my mom would go to the store, bring back the yam, the plantain, the pepper, the indomie, the palm oil, and whatever we could find. She'll cook basic Nigerian food.
That's so interesting. Can't relate because I lived in inner London. I'm sorry.
You
I
had
had
access.
an African store, right? So like I lived on top of a parade of shops and across the road was another parade of shops.
Fantastic.
And we had an African shop, but it was a Ghanaian guy that owned it. But I kid you not, we had everything.
That's
Everything.
so unfair. Like what? Why
You
are
need to have
boasting?
that conversation with your
Why
parents,
are you
not me.
boasting?
But yeah, so I feel like it's so interesting that depending on where you are in the diaspora, your relationship with food, especially in your earlier years, can be entirely different just depending on where you grow up.
And how you get exposed as well to different ingredients as you develop.
Yeah.
So obviously from what you're saying, your development with our cuisine, let's say, happened a bit later.
Yes, much later. Probably like in the past 5 years, which is kind of nuts.
Interesting.
Because up until then, I'd worked in Italian restaurants, Mexican restaurants, I'd worked in pubs. All that stuff is cool. And I was eating Nigerian food at home or in restaurants. But like my own, like max, I was making jollof rice and stew. Like I learned how to make egusi last year.
No way. And he cooked some of the best egusi I ever ate.
Thank you so much. But I wanted to learn so that I could make that egusi. And I think that's now like where my head is at with a lot of like core Nigerian dishes, is that if I'm going to deviate and do something cool with it, I have to learn like the basics
the
of it.
authentic way to do it.
So can I ask a question? How
Of
did you
course.
feel learning Nigerian food much later? Did it feel intimidating?
Yes, a little bit, because it felt weird to say that I didn't know how to make egusi. And I was like, I can't tell anybody, so let me go and learn before they ask me. Or learning how to make akara or moi moi, and then watching things online that don't have correct measurements. And it's just like, when it looks like this, it's ready.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I can't replicate that. So like, I need to figure it out for myself. So it's been a very fun process though, because like I can learn the science of our own ingredients. And I can share that with my family and they give good feedback. So, yeah.
I think that's where I found it fun. But like understanding the science and actually like, oh, so you guys were doing vibes before.
Yeah,
like.
everything was vibes. But I think that's also the beauty of our cuisine, because the way we're taught is on vibes
It's
and
vibes,
like, and like just
feeling.
cultural feeling and whatever. But then as we grow up and as we see ourselves as professionals in the industry, so we don't just see ourselves as we're cooking for families. We're cooking for the greater good, so to speak. So it's kind of the onus is on us to understand our ingredients on like a scientific and gastronomical level, as opposed to just food for sustenance.
So there's something that even like till today I think is one of the biggest influences with my cooking, because how I got taught to cook Nigerian food was at every single stage you're tasting. And sometimes like there's one dish I do now with a bisque, and I'm literally inspired by it purely because of the coconut base my mom would make for coconut rice before she added the rice. And I always used to want to eat that just alone. So I decided to make a bisque that literally personifies that. And I probably wouldn't have done that if I wasn't taught that way.
Yeah. What's in that bisque? Tell us.
You gotta pay me.
Hey, the big bucks.
She said, I can send you an invoice. Okay, but I feel like we've jumped ahead a bit. And in everything we've said, what I would like to know is a bit more about how that journey started. Like like who was cooking around you when you were younger?
Yeah.
Also the question why it took you so long to kind of get involved in that process.
In the process of Nigerian food?
Nigerian food.
Okay. I'll start with the first part of the question. My dad, fantastic cook. Even when we were in Nigeria as well. I was telling the story the other day about like how he would just come back with bags of meat. And he'd be like, my brother and I come and help him wash the meat. And I'd be like, guy, like it's the middle of the day. I want to go and play. Like, what's all this? But it was part of the process of him just being like, this is part of the work of cooking, right? Like, it's not just eating a nice pot of stew. But at the end of the day, like, we're all sitting down together eating this food that we all put our hands into, right?
Yeah.
And then over the years, especially in Canada, actually, because he was back and forth.
Okay.
And he would come every summer and he would just be like, all right, barbecue season. And then for like 3 months, we're just running back and forth on the barbecue. People are coming over. And then it's me and my brother that are on the grill with him. So we learned a lot that way. He had a lot of cookbooks as well. So we just didn't see any other way than to be in the kitchen growing up. And then it became a part-time job for me when I needed money. And I was like, it's cool, I'll do this. But I was like, yo, working in the kitchen is kind of fun. It's crazy. It's crazy, but it's kind of fun.
I love that. The men of the household taking over
I
the
think
cooking.
It's a really beautiful perspective or an insight to have, because we're so used to, most people would say, both of us, for example, our influences were our mums. And Dad, if you're watching, I'm not saying you can't cook. My dad's a great cook, funny enough. But because I didn't grow up eating his food, I didn't really know that. But a lot of the time we always hear it's the women. It's our mums, it's our aunties, it's our grandmas. For me, it was my mum and my grandma. So I feel like that's a really good insight to have, because there are a lot of Nigerian men that can throw it down in the kitchen.
Heavy. Like Jamaican men. Jamaican men
can cook. They can do other things too, but they can cook.
Sorry, that's hard.
I actually couldn't help, but but Jamaican men, the things Jamaican men can do, they do it well. Yeah. So, okay, that's interesting. So now from that, and you've touched on it briefly, so you then went into like, you were doing
like part-time
kitchen,
working. Yeah.
work,
in a pub on
part-time.
campus in school. I was giving everybody free wings. All the Nigerians were eating free food. It's reparations. That was my part to play. But it was fun. And then I came back to the NYSC, went back, and I was looking for a job tirelessly.
You came back to do NYSC.
I came back to the NYSC. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was a fun time. Oh, we also, when I was back, there's this place called Papa's Grill. We developed their origin barbecue sauce for them that year.
Who's we?
Myself and my brother.
That's sick.
Yeah, so we used to make bottles of barbecue sauce and go and deliver it to Papa's Grill in Lekki. That was fun. Yeah.
Do they still use that barbecue sauce?
I don't know. I haven't been in a long time. But that was just, I was like, I know how to do it, so why not?
Why not? Of course.
And then coming back to Canada, I was looking for a job. I was staying on my friend's couch and I was like, okay, I have kitchen experience at least. Let me stand up and go and make some money. Went to a restaurant, worked there for like 2 years. It was nuts, but it got me back on my feet. I got back into regular schooling and I got a full-time job. And it just stayed that way. I was just always doing part-time cooking until one day I was like, I'm going to do an event. Because social media was booming. Everybody was like, want to do an event. Popped off, crazy, fun times. I was going to do it again. COVID hit. Boom. Shut it all down.
That's everyone's story. I was just on the verge and then COVID hit.
We were about to continue the momentum and then that really sucked. But then it now led to doing private work.
Okay.
So people were in their homes. Let's have a little dinner. And that was the first test of private catering.
That's when I started private dining.
Really?
As well.
Right after?
Was COVID.
Me too.
COVID was what forced.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us.
And it pushed us so much because it was like you saw one person doing it and you're like, oh, swear down.
And
then you put out your post, you're like, available for, and it made sense and it works. Like I did so many private dining gigs during COVID and I was like, it was also what made me realize that this is what I wanted to do. And so for me, it was like I was doing the catering, but as I was doing that, it showed me that this is what I'd rather be doing. And that is when this urge to be in the right place to do that came, and that's how.
That's why you're back here.
That's what led to me being here. So that's so very interesting that COVID opened a lot of our eyes, and it's funny. It's not funny because COVID was a damn mess. It's ironic how I feel like such a dire thing provided clarity for so many people.
Because you were standing still. Like
honestly,
we were so fast-pacing before. Like we were standing still, and it gave us a lot of time to reflect. And that's why a lot of us ended up picking something that truly meant something to us. Because life is for finding your purpose as well.
Yeah.
And I love that. You know, when I look at the three of us, we can all consider ourselves diasporan chefs. You know, even though Wumi and I have moved back, a lot of our influences still come from how we grew up outside of Nigeria. And there is an emotional tie to seeing how your ingredients have traveled across the waters and seeing how different cultures or different countries take those ingredients and do something with it. So looking back at that, like, for example, how have you established yourself or wanted to establish yourself in a foreign market as a Nigerian chef? What are some of the influences you look at, and how do you pick from, you know, similar cultures from other countries as well, I would say?
Yeah, the journey, I guess, the decision to establishing myself, I think came at the last restaurant I was working at. Really high-end Mexican spot. And I was like, seeing them making these sauces with like 10 to 15 different spices, the traditional way, cooked over open fire. And I was like, this is exactly what I want to do in Nigerian cooking. One day I was just like, I'm going to leave this place soon, and I'm going to try and like model my own food off of this practice. That was a really, really eye-opening moment for me. And then since then, it's just been trying to like stay true to techniques, traditions, things like that. But then the difficulty of getting all ingredients as fresh as you need obviously plays its parts. Like I can't get fresh uziza when I want to. So I get frozen uziza that is now watery and it affects the quality of what I'm doing. But it is what it is. It's the cost of being somewhere else.
You mentioned something. I love that working in a high-end Mexican restaurant really inspired you. When I think of Mexican cuisine, I think of the salsas, I think of maybe mole. So I do see some of that, you know, being represented in your cooking. I love Southern American food too. I find when it comes to my influences, I look at a lot in Brazil and Cajun influence as well from the South Americans. I love that idea of open fire. I love the idea of even simplicity with ingredients. I think one thing that I noticed growing up with Nigerian food was we have a lot of beautiful ingredients, right? But maybe sometimes we'll be overpowered with maybe a lot of
Maggie.
a lot of oil, and sometimes you don't get to enjoy the
flavors,
flavor of
flavors
it.
of them.
So taking those influences, for example, taking okra and just charring it and adding some salt, and one or two spices can just completely make you enjoy the experience completely differently. So that's what I think inspired me from looking at how, our food has gone into the diaspora.
Yeah. So with that, I think like the other thing is, and I say this to people all the time, you get a lot of Nigerians, and I always say this, Nigerians can be very one-dimensional with their food, with their ingredients. And I feel like it's our biggest downfall, because if you are able to look at ingredients across the world, in other African countries, in other countries that use similar ingredients, it opens your eyes and your horizons to what can actually be done with what we have in our backyard. And I feel like chefs like you are doing that. Chefs like us are doing that. But not everyone has quite cottoned onto that. They will see something and they'll be like, look what they're doing with our semo. Or look what they're doing with our and it's like, so semo, for example, I never knew semo was a swallow till recent years.
Just thought it was semolina.
It was semolina. It was a pudding. I'd never eaten it as a savory dish in my life. So that when I first had it as swallow, I was like, okay, this makes sense. But it was so beautiful to see that one ingredient can be used as a sweet dish. It can be used as a savory dish. It is used in like pastas and flowers. I'm like cakes. There's semolina cakes. There's so much. And it's like, once you open your eyes to that, what you can do with food is vast. Exactly. It's so expansive. And I think to be a good chef, that's one of the first things you have to learn to do. Look at an ingredient and don't just look at it as what you know it as. Look at it as, what else can I do with that? That's my favorite thing to do with things.
I love to look at that because it's way even beyond how people react nowadays. Like, our food has been traveling for so long, centuries. Like, even before the slave trade, food traveled. Like, I remember when I went to South Africa last year, I went to a restaurant and they were giving us the history about how they were even trading with India before white people even came.
Yeah.
So we've been trading with each other and having influences in food way before. So sometimes I get sad thinking about what history we don't know, but what we do know is that our food has traveled. And even if we use the slave trade, for example, I love to see how they took what they had and tried to, they re-documented it or invented it based on what they had around
them.
The environment. Like looking at okra becoming gumbo, and then even jollof rice, and it's seeing its similarities with jambalaya, like efo and collard greens, for example.
Collard greens,
because they use like smoked turkey too in a lot of these like dishes. The same way we use smoked turkey too. Yeah.
But the one I'm fascinated with definitely is swallow, and how it is a flour and how it could be made into breads and cakes and things. But like you said, it's just literally understanding an ingredient and taking it forward. Like that's what fascinates me with the diaspora. And one thing I just love to do from cookbooks, from videos, and learning the history and seeing how food has just traveled globally.
No, that's a big thing. So like, even with something, okay, so I'm thinking of akara because I ate akara yesterday, akara that FT made, and child, oh my God. But akara, I think, is one of the most popular ones as of recent because of the rise of the akara restaurant in London. But even before that came about, there was Netflix did Street Food Brazil. It was one of my favorite episodes. Oh my God. Because the auntie in that was making that akara. It was the first time I'd seen akara different. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that inspired me too. It's like a
literal mind blown. I was like, swear down.
Because of that, I actually started experimenting with akara.
I was like, swear down.
I did like
and it was so nice to see.
A sausage. Wait,
you see the who?
I stuffed akara with sausage. Like I did a sausage filling.
I would like to completely
and salsa verde. It was fantastic.
Can you make it for me tomorrow?
Did you freeze the batter and then? How did you?
So I use a master pot.
So you put a bit, then you put the sausage, then you put on top. Oh my God. That makes so much sense. you just put something in my head now. Because you can have like little.
Yeah, and I just love. I love making akara in the masa pot now because one the
you can see, you can
and the crunch,
literally
the texture,
see and hear the cogs in his head turning in this very moment.
I have a masa pan at home. When I go back, don't worry, you guys are going to see. But
even masa, like masa filled. Can't remember who it was that did it. I think it might have been Chef Lola, and she filled it with something I can't remember. But it was such a great. Like, we can fill our things. We can do so much more with it than what we know it to be. And I hate the fact that people see it as like blasphemous. Oh my God, you can't do that with. Relax.
We love our traditions, man. We love our traditions.
And nobody's taking that away. If
I think it even celebrates it more.
Well, why didn't exactly? We're allowing it, because what you're then doing is, okay, someone may not necessarily want to eat masa as masa. Or something, whatever. Masa is probably a bad example because masa is pretty general. But someone may not see something and find it appealing. But the way we could then redo it and explain it to them and explain the similarities, so something like your akara one, and say, oh, it's like a sausage roll, and then it's a bit more. And this is what I always say to people: the best way to introduce people to new things is to give it to them and explain it to them in comparison to something they're already familiar with. Because
I was going to say,
what were you going to say?
I have a question about that, actually.
I was going to say, you give them a touch point that they can,
exactly.
They can
it's a touch point. Oh my God.
Wait, is this a long running joke?
Yeah, okay. Having touch points. Wow.
we go together real hard.
That's so funny.
It's literally, and it's the best way to introduce, even Nigerians, it's the best way. So I remember the first time I did a snail and mushroom pepper soup. A lot of Nigerians don't like mushrooms, but they love snail.
Yeah.
So what I inadvertently did was force everyone to eat the mushrooms, because you're like, okay, no, but I don't eat snail, for instance, and you can't give it to me. I was gonna lie there. I was gonna say you can't give it to me in any way and I'll eat it, but that's a lie. The one time I've eaten snail is because it was given to me in a way that I was like, let me try it.
What was in it?
What
was it cooked with? Okay.
Honor snails. They cut it up into really tiny pieces, so it didn't feel like I was eating one big hefty snail.
And that's the thing.
And then it had a
cream. It's mind shifts.
Exactly. And that's the only time I've eaten snail.
I had a really good snail this week.
No.
From Ajoje. I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah, that snail looks good.
Hey, that may be one of the best.
Was it still just the snail?
Yeah.
I just,
you see, for Woo, it's a mental thing.
I can't see snail and just be like, give me. Absolutely not.
But this is amazing. Now we're talking about customers and like reaching. And I think that is a strength that we have as diasporan chefs is, you can relate, for example, with a Canadian or international palate, seeing what is around and what people know and how to, okay, you know what, I want to introduce you to something completely foreign, but how have you found a good balance? I want to say you are a Nigerian chef, but I think you do showcase diasporan cooking through your international influences. So what are some of the techniques you've used?
So there's a trend in Toronto restaurants. You're likely to find an octopus dish, a branzino dish, a steak dish, and then a good like vegetable dish. It may be cauliflower or something. And that is like how I've modeled a lot of my menus. There's been an octopus. There's one I'm thinking about with branzino, because when people see it, then they can recognize it based off of things that they eat.
I want to be for the people. What is a branzino?
Oh, branzino is a sea bass. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. But they call it branzino.
Okay.
It's just another name.
Okay.
So yeah, those are some of the ways that I think about like bringing some consistency to dining experiences. But also, I also don't want people to just feel like this is just another restaurant that they're going to, because you can go to a new Mediterranean restaurant that will have all those proteins, but with their own sauces. And I'm like, I don't know if that's the direction I want to go. Because in as much as I want people to like have something like a touch point, I still
Touch points by Chef B.
Hey, one thing I'm gonna do is bring it back. But like, I still want people to have the authentic experience. And I may not be the authentic traditional Nigerian restaurants that are cooking straight soups all day long, but I still don't want you to like feel like I made this dish palatable for you. Yeah. That's like a line that I want to be able to
It's
walk
such a
right.
tough line, and I agree with that, because it's a very hard balance to find where, okay, you know what, I'm trying to meet where you are, but I also don't want to strip where I'm from.
Yeah.
But I think one of the ways I try and achieve that is maybe through textural similarities. Some people love their purees. They love so I've tried to work with that kind of angle rather than I'm going to shift my let's say ingredients more so, but I'll play with the textures that maybe you can handle. So with okra, rather than trying to, people say I'm not really into that slimy texture and they don't know it. Let's show you okra in a different way while still highlighting some of those flavors.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm just thinking right now? Yeah. I don't think I cook for foreigners in Canada. Okay, let me rephrase it. I don't cook primarily for foreigners. Obviously, I want foreigners to enjoy my food too. But primarily, I want Nigerians to be able to think outside of the box with how our food can be.
That's definitely an inspiration.
Because like a lot of people come to the dinners and they're just like, I don't eat beetroot. And then they eat it and they're just like, I don't eat octopus.
That happens all the time.
I'm like, it's okay. Open, just like try something new. And so then they go out into the world and they are now willing to like be more open-minded.
Do you know what blows my mind about the beetroot? We grow fantastic beetroot here. Such good beetroot.
What is it
Nigerians don't eat
a lot in?
I can't think of a dish.
Nigerians mainly use it for blood tonic. They mix it with the other things. They blend it and they will drink
that's
it.
Cool.
But I love that point. I think we can all say we love that feeling of and what's the word?
Like a light bulb?
A light bulb for a Nigerian client to be like, I would never have thought till this day I would experience something like this with my food.
And then
it's a fantastic
I feel like it's also a great thing just for Africans and, like you said, Africans, and Caribbeans, for instance. Just Black people in general, because a lot of our ingredients are intertwined. The same way you can find plantain, same way you can find plantain here, you find it in South America, you find it in the Caribbean islands, you find it in other parts of Africa. And it's like, we all use plantain so differently.
So different.
And it's like, if that doesn't tell you what it needs to tell you, I don't know what will. Even just the way we do certain things with our peppers, it's the way that we do asu and suya and Jamaicans do jerk. Do you get what I mean? It's the same. They're all derivatives of the same or very similar techniques. And then we, specifically asu, we will then put it on an open fire. It's not jerk. A Jamaican person will tell you it's not jerk.
Jerk without
Fuck
that.
Me. It's not jerk if you're not made it on a jerk pan. And that's real valid.
Yeah.
So it's like when people say they're doing jerk, and I do this all the time.
We've all done it.
I'd be doing it. I did it the other day. I made some banging jerk chicken in an air fryer. Beat me. But my point is, it's
the same with suya.
Exactly. Yeah. So do you get what I mean? But then these things are all like very much derivatives of one another. And so even just with even if your menu is something like your egusi and your melon seeds, and then your moi moi, for instance, we eat beans all across Africa. Another African eating this bean dish and going, "Oh my God, I never knew you could do that with beans. We only eat beans as X, Y, and Z here." It's so interesting. Like the other day, I found out that. So one of my food culture shocks, when I moved to Nigeria. When I first came to Nigeria, was we used to eat ground rice a lot. And in London, you can get ground rice as the powder and you roll it, you make it swallow. It's not a thing here.
No.
And then when I was saying this to my mum the other day, she was like, woman, no, sorry, I was going to do that in Yoruba. They eat it in the north and they call it tuwo. I was like, nobody ever told me that. I didn't know that. But it's why you need to ask questions about your food and your ingredients. Because ground rice, but I just thought that Nigerians weren't into that swallow, but it's really just a thing where, for whatever reason, we've figured out how to make it real easy for us to get it there. And it's a staple swallow, but it's not a staple swallow in these parts, but they eat it. So now I need to go and find tuwo, because I've not had ground rice in so long.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny? I used to eat ground rice a lot.
A lot.
And here, and I don't know why.
In Nigeria?
Yeah, in my aunt's house, I used to make it all the time. And I was like, first of all, what is this? Like, this is not the regular swallow I'm used to. But I love it. It's good.
Funny enough, it's my favorite swallow. Like top. Okay, I'm a liar. If you know me, you know I love amala. Let me not be a liar. Let them not cast me. But after amala, it's ground rice.
See the differences just amongst Nigeria as a country, yet alone. Oh wait, we're gonna pause for an ASMR.
Just a little.
We're about to make a tummy break.
Ooh. Brought to you by Tommy.
Oh
Oh my gosh. Wait, where was I? We need to talk as a country, seeing the differences alone in the nation, yet alone your neighbors and your countries abroad across the globe. But it's fascinating. What would you say some of your challenges have been, trying to showcase Nigerian food abroad?
Getting the freshest ingredients, I think, for me, and also getting access to people who know how to cook the dishes that I want to learn much more readily. That's a lot of reasons why I enjoy coming back and working with the people that I do work with here. Is that cool? Now I get to have a quick learning moment, even if it's for 2 weeks. It's that's, I think, to me, is one of the biggest challenges. And also pricing this food at a certain level that is in line with Toronto prices for this level of food. Because people are just why are we paying XYZ for this? But I'm this dish took me 3 days to make. I'm so sorry.
Is that mostly Nigerians or
at least the initial clientele were Nigerians, right? So yeah, that was the initial thought. But it's also, I think that's also how we look at our food in general.
I'm glad you said that.
That was my point.
Even if you get a regular plate of jollof rice or egusi or whatever.
Is it not just rice?
Yeah, is it not just obviously I understand the desire for value meals and in a cost of living crisis, but you also just say, why am I paying XYZ? But it took 3 people to make this dish. They had to go and buy the ingredients. They are paying rent. Also, your food is delicious. Pay for it, right?
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of developing cultures or countries have gone through that. You look at Indian fine dining, which was a new concept, 5 to 10 years ago. Even Mexican cuisine, getting that into a fine dining space. You see a lot of
natives,
average consumers of that culture would not understand why their food, why am I paying $300 to eat a taco as one of the courses, So it's happened with everyone. I think what other chefs or other restaurants have had to do is re-educate on the processes and refinements and what it is that makes that food elevated. It's the ingredients are familiar, but it's what we've done to it, how we've transformed it, and making you also value and be proud that our food can be taken to such a high level.
Doing that.
I wonder if it makes the guests think more about when they are eating at home and when they are making their own dish. The same dish even at a restaurant, and you go, wow, this is actually a very complex thing I'm doing. You may have done it so many times over the years, so it doesn't feel novel. But I wonder if they have that experience when they go home.
I love to share that with clients. I think, like you said, when we've just been cooking something since childhood, even just from basic jollof rice, I like to just use that as an example of how all the different layers, there is such a process that's put into achieving a certain flavor.
A good pot of jollof rice,
the smokiness, getting
technique.
Your rice flaky, and all these different things. I'm like, these are things that people go to school for.
Honestly,
So you should have some pride that and that's what we spoke about in Sia's episode. Just saying that we have so many actual fine dining techniques in our
100%.
heritage,
in our cultural cuisine.
Yeah,
that is.
No, honestly, I would have said a challenge when I was in the UK. Typically, it was more so just dealing with expectations that people had versus what I was trying to create.
Okay.
And I think because the cuisine is elevated cuisine of our food is quite new, people would either go off what they had seen on TikTok or what maybe that one house they went to 10 years ago and they tried this jollof rice or something. I'm like, there's so much more to our food. So I felt like I had to consistently try and show you what our food was, or try and tell you, okay, this is one way you've had it, but it's not the only way. Or okay, we're not just fufu and egusi that you see on TikTok. So it's nice to broaden people's horizons, but at the same time, I did feel, I think we spoke about this in the first episode. Putting different cultures together. I'm not a Jamaican chef. I've never been a Jamaican chef, but don't expect me to be a Jamaican chef just because that's what you know. So that was a challenge for me for sure.
Okay. Challenges for me, I think, if anything, was maybe I can't say that I had challenges, so to speak. And I think maybe because like ingredients were not necessarily hard to find because of where I grew up and where I started. But if anything, I think the challenge was more when I wanted to start expanding and doing a lot more with what we had outside of your regular jollof rice and your suya and your plantain and your gizdodo and your like, okay, the menu's tired out. But I couldn't go past that because one, I didn't have knowledge of mooring. Like I've come here to Nigeria, I've learned about uyaya. Because FT came here, I had never smelled uyayak in my life. I'd never used it. I'd seen it a lot, but like it's not something I ever used. Like there's so many ingredients that I'm now like, oh my God, I can do this with this. And if anything, I think the main challenge for me was not being able to expand my knowledge of our cuisine because I was in a foreign land. So it was only what we were familiar with
and exposed to
that I could put out. Yeah. And I felt like I was doing a disservice to our cuisine because it's like, I know there is so much more.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sure, you can finish it.
No, that's it.
But if you think about like even living in Nigeria, growing up here, still being here, you're probably used to 6 to 10 dishes based off of your region.
That was my counter. I think some people would be just as limited
here. Yeah.
But I feel like the difference is...
It can be.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's like, I knew that was what I wanted to do. So I know that I will come in and I will go out of my way to do it.
People
do you get what I mean?
They eat at home and their grandpa's house and their friends, but it's so funny. I used to really enjoy going to other people's houses simply because I was so obsessed with trying other people's stew.
Stew specifically is so great because I really always just enjoyed tasting other people's red stew. Like just red stew. I wanted to taste because in my head, my mum makes the best. You can't tell me nothing. And I'd eat it everywhere else. And it proved me right every time. But it was so interesting seeing how other...
No, honestly.
I thought you were going to say you had an open mind.
Nobody's stew was doing what my mum's stew was doing. But it was so beautiful to see how other people did things. Because it was like, oh, maybe my mum... Like, for instance, my mum used to blend carrots into her jollof rice. I didn't like that. Her thing was color and like a slight different depth of flavor, which makes sense. But for me, I'm just like, I scraps the carrots and I started using turmeric. Like I use a lot of turmeric because I also don't use tomato puree ever in my jollof rice. I hate the way tomato puree, one, makes it look and taste. And coming to Nigeria also taught me why people do certain things. So tomato puree, it's like, tomato is expensive. And in my head, I'm like, what are you talking about? Tomatoes are dirt cheap in London. So it was a no-brainer. We used to use the canned tomatoes as well. So it was like the Italian tomato is really good. But so it's also a thing where you now understand why people do certain things. And some of the differences in the way we cook is the economy, the price points. It's outside. It's just kind of having a better understanding of why people do things. And maybe you should consider doing it because I've considered it, but I just can't cook jollof rice with tomato puree. I don't like that color it gives food. It gives jollof rice. It gives it this slightly darker, browner. It's got this weird burnt orange tinge. I like my jollof rice to be a nice, vibrant orange. So I won't ever use tomato puree, but I also get why people do it. And so it's those things as well. It's understanding the economics of cooking and not just the flavor and the look.
It's so true. I mean, when we think about the other conversations we've had, a lot of the things that we will we will literally die by, what's the saying? You die on the cross with...
Is that what saying?
Yeah.
Like a hill to die on?
Dying on the hill. This is
what? This is the hill you're going to die on?
I'm going to die.
So you're willing to die on this hill?
Yes. But that's the saying.
This is not actually heritage. Like, this is not heritage to us. It's Maggie came in as an economic crisis. Let's be real. We were developing flavors. One of my aunts, she does an amazing thing with jollof rice. She uses quite a lot of ginger, and it completely I call it ginger jollof. It's completely different, but I love the taste that the ginger pairs with the tomatoes. It's fantastic. Yeah. So don't die on a hill. Explore. Go
Yeah.
to your friend's house.
Mhm.
Try their food. Ask them what they did differently. And
That.
the ingredients are there to be versatile. They're there to be experimental with.
I agree. I'm sorry, I cannot get over dying on a cross. She said I'm Jesus. So FT,
Mhm.
with everything we've discussed, what I now want to know, what we want to know, is what are your long-term goals? Like, what is in the future for you? What is your plan with this? And as a add-on question, do you see yourself coming to Nigeria long term?
Good questions. Long-term plans. Tough. I think this is the first year I've accepted that I will probably go, not probably, that I will go into food full time.
Okay.
So for so long, it's been a part-time thing, but I feel like it's fairly opportune right now, especially in Toronto. So I want to take advantage of where things are at right now.
So I have a follow-up to that. And I love that you say there's an opportunity for you and the space you want to fill in Canada. If there's one thing you want to accomplish with your food for the clientele out there, what would it be right now? I mean, it can change in a year, 2 years, but
It's a great question.
I want people to continuously have the mindset that the food that they're used to eating can be done differently. And when they say, I've never had Nigerian food like this, and I'm like, tick, done. My job here is done. You enjoyed it? Fantastic. Go home.
I love that. I think that's great.
yeah. Do you want to say what do you want to do with your food?
What's your 5-year plan?
Okay, that's a great question, actually. For me, now that I'm here, everyone keeps asking me, are you really going to stay here? And I always say, oh, no, I'm tired, I'm over it. But it's a lie. It's a barefaced lie. For me, one thing I've always said when people ask me that question is, I want my name to be synonymous with food, especially when it pertains to local produce and Nigerian cuisine. So for me, the goal is to figure out how to create products, a product range. I had a product range before, but do it again and do it better and using our ingredients. And then obviously just continuing to play with food. I say play. As a child, they said don't play with food. And now it's my goal is to actually play with food, but to play with it, to understand it better, to stretch everyone's understanding of it. And just also be an someone that has educational value in this industry. I don't just want it to be self-serving. I also want to help other people in this industry and to help people grow in it and understand it better. And yeah.
You're making me smile.
Oh,
Look at how I'm
She's so
smiling.
proud of you.
I love that. I love that in the space you've been here, in the year, you have so much love to share. I love that. FT as well. You're going to conquer Toronto. I'm so excited for you.
Grace.
And one thing I'm just seeing is for people who have been in this industry we've been in the industry for years, but in terms of finding our foot and getting into our business, it's new to us, I would say. But we have so much ambition and so much drive to create an impact, I would say.
Yes.
There are a lot of people who've been in the industry for years, and because they're profiting themselves, they're okay, but we want to see things progress. And I love that. I think for me, I've said the word impact. I want to be impactful. Food is not always been my avenue. It may not always be my avenue of, being a private this or a chef this, but I think I'll always cook. I'll always share my food. But for me, it's more about the value chain of the industry. It's about every touch point.
Oh, there we go.
It's about everyone, every stakeholder. I want to see local businesses thriving. I want to see agriculture thriving. I want to see the fishermen thriving. I want to see the restaurants doing the best they can with all our local produce. I just want to see a pride and a love and appreciation for every person that is involved in putting food on the table. To me, that's what's important. And I showcase that through now celebrating local ingredients, because when I first came, that was not what I was doing. I came in with international breast, lamb chop, because that's what I grew up eating in the UK. But I realized that there's a bigger
Purpose?
mission. Yeah, there was a bigger mission at hand, and that's where I want to be, for sure.
I love that. Wow. Oh,
amazing.
And then even with sorry, I'm still going. And for customers as well, clients, the average person, to have a pride with their food, to see how great and versatile our food is as well. And I'll end there. This has been a great pitch. Dragon's Den investors. Pick your
You can email us.
Person.
But I feel like this has been a really I don't even feel like this has been a really, really good conversation.
100%. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
But we're not done.
Oh,
we're not done. We're not done.
So we can't say bye yet.
We're not saying bye just yet.
Thank you.
But no, it's been a great conversation.
Great conversation. Okay, so we are now going into our favorite part of the day. We are bringing to you the One Bite segment. Vanessa, do you want to let us know what it is?
So on today's One Bite segment, we're going to be discussing abula.
I hate that you did it with like a nasal British accent and then you did abula. Abula. Our beloved. Our amala. Begiri. Ewedu. Àti omi. Hey, I float. Omi obe. Hey, no. Omi obe. Omi obe. Oh, mommy, I'm so sorry. Omi obe.
No,
and then in some cases, a shit ton of meat, but I can eat amala without meat, by the way.
Oh, really?
I
But
swear
it's a
to you.
beautiful,
I love it without
texture,
meat.
but no, I need to have my meat.
But
we love this. What we want to talk about really is, I think, the rise in finding the renowned abula in restaurants and establishments. We fought because you know that the best abula is when you go to your
your buka, your
and
alliance,
you see that big pot with the hot stew. You see all the different, the big auntie with the arms that you just know it slaps. But now it's become a thing where, you know what, why not dress up and go to a restaurant? And I think that's what Nook pioneered.
Yes, pioneered
with the very beautiful plate, the beautiful present. I mean, it's always beautifully presented in my opinion, but an extra detail maybe in how the meat is plated. I don't know, because I find
they're not doing anything different. It's just the plate and the spoon and the ambience of the space that it's being consumed in.
Obviously, the prices of Nook's abula has just been rising and rising and
rising
with the dollar.
Exactly. But now I think I've gone to so many establishments that are opening and abula's on their menu, whether they are an African restaurant or not, which is quite questionable.
I just want to know why you feel like, as a pizzeria, you should have amala on your menu.
No, I feel like we have to name the pizzeria.
What was the name, Vanessa?
So I think, I know what she's talking about.
It was Vanessa that went there. She was like, I'm going there to eat amala.
Yeah.
And then she put on her story, and we're going to insert this. You got to find it in your archive.
Yeah.
And she put like the name of the restaurant, and it was Ulala Cafe. And then underneath it said pizzeria. I'm like, bro, are you a pizzeria, a cafe, or a booker?
Wood-fired amala. Come on, man. You ain't never had it like that. That's actually crazy.
Real crazy.
Yeah, but clearly it seems that these establishments are really just trying to take over that market of people who are complaining about Nook's amala.
I don't even think they're trying to take it over, but like intercept. Yeah, like they're really trying to be like, oh, don't go there, come here, because our price is a bit more, but it doesn't align with your establishment. This is something we've spoken about on the words mean things.
Can't just say you're a pizzeria.
Bro,
that's funny.
You're a pizzeria, but you're selling amala. And I get it, we're in Nigeria, but if you know that it's Nigerian food you want to be doing, then yes, we want amala there. But if that's not your bag, for less of a better word, then please, make it make sense. Imagine I walked into the finest Italian restaurant in Italy and I say, can I have suya? And they pull that suya out. Would you not run?
Like, whoa.
Whoa. Do you know what I mean? What's going on here? And you know, the ironic thing is that it makes sense to Nigerians.
Mhm.
Because Nigerians like Vanessa will go to Ulala Cafe and eat
Not
amala
like Vanessa.
in
Look,
the pizza.
excuse me.
Shade.
Let me defend myself.
Shade.
real
Yeah,
quick.
okay.
I didn't know it was a pizzeria. Everyone was like, go to Ulala for their amala banged. So when I got
Interesting.
there and I saw the sign, that's why I took it.
Did you also
shadily.
have pizza?
No, I went there
Okay.
purely for
Okay,
I didn't even
okay.
know what was on their menu. So everyone was just like, oh, Vanessa, you need to go.
Was
to
it good?
Ulala. It was. Actually, I can't lie to you. It was
The only
good.
reason I've not gone is because like I sound like a hypocrite. Like do you get what I mean? Like it goes against who I am. Like, I'm really gonna walk
We'll
into
find with their next Wednesday.
Or did they do specials on Wednesday?
No, I just picked
Okay.
a random day for this.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds
we
like-
Wednesdays.
Wednesday.
Wednesdays are my days, isn't it?
Oh, for what?
It's Womi's Wednesday.
Okay, I was just
A little bit of
asking, man.
alliteration.
Oh, okay, I love that.
Anyway, what's your one bite?
What's your one bite
from
on
this?
that?
Coming into like, you know,
Mm.
seeing it happening.
With amala.
Mm.
Like, yeah, don't do it, man. Just don't.
Like it's so funny because
No,
it's a
yeah,
no-brainer.
yeah. Just stick to what you're good at. Like I understand the desire to, as you said, intercept a certain market, but that's a short-term win. Like long-term, people are like, why do I keep going to this place that has pizza and why am I eating amala? Right? Like
But the irony is they're known for their amala. So they probably just shouldn't be called a pizza.
Okay,
They just say that this is your thing.
Switch
and
it back. Yeah, take the pizzeria off.
Yeah,
Take
like do you
pizzeria
get what I
off.
mean?
Yeah.
I think that's what
Yeah. And
because
I have to say that ambience, I really find it hard saying this word. Ambience.
so funny. It depends
ambience.
on who could I say
Yeah.
ambience?
The ambience was really hard to eat the amala because it was cafe vibes, like a low seating, little tiny tables. Like you should be there having a cup of tea and a sandwich, and there I was having a hot plate of amala on my lap.
So you're not talking about the total experience. You've now deviated from what people expect or how they want to experience.
What are
your
you
space.
guys
So, like,
doing?
now you need proper seating. Now you have to refurnish your space because of amala. So what you've
Yeah,
done.
exactly. So if you want to take that big, make sure it matches who you
Yeah.
are. But I think what you said, basically just don't do it.
Just don't do
end there.
it.
Yeah.
And on that note, the podcast is over.
Shout out to Tommy.
Hey,
Lover.
Hey, we don't
Tommy.
take our line, no. We have a whole process, please.
Sorry.
No, we've got to let him do it now. But okay.
Yeah.
So
FT, thank you so much for vibing with us. It has been such an amazing episode.
it's actually been a big pleasure.
It was a fantastic feast. Thank you.
I love that. On that note, thank you to all our viewers, our listeners. Please continue to like, share, comment, everything you can possible to interact with us.
You can find us on all podcast streaming platforms and follow us on all our social channels. The @name will be below somewhere. Or if you're listening to the audio, it's @onebitepod_.
Thank you so much to our partners as well. Woodscope for giving us the best environment to film. And of course to Arrow House for giving us the best equipment and supporting us on this podcast journey.
And shout outs to Tommy for keeping us hydrated throughout this hot Sunday. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. FT, thank you again. And we look forward to dishing it out with you all this season.
One bite at a time.